is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Welcome to the Temple of Speed. Maybe not the cars that you choose at the Temple of Speed, but my goodness, what a track this has proven to be. Inaugural inception into the Formula One calendar in 1950. This is history, and this is history in the making here. It's the Skip Barber 2K World Cup here on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by RaceSpot TV. Heads to this fantastic 5.79 kilometer, 11 turn wonderbolt of a speed fest. And in these Skip Barbers, today it is a draft fest as the very best in the world with a Skip Barber come to race here this evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are around the world. I am Jake Sperry here, giving you the rundown of everything that's going on. Will Vincent not well here today, so will not be joining us for this one, but the first lap times are about to come in qualifying as we see the likes of Borjazazo, Fahim Antonides, Justin Tipton, Anthony Catt, James McCritchie, Simon Edwards. A lot of names that could be up there, as well as your three title protagonists right now, as Ronan Griffin sets a 2:15.6, instantly beaten by Borjazazo to set up the first times. Justin Tipton moves to the top of the timing stands then by half a second. You've got to keep your eyes peeled. The likes of Francois Boulian trying to put in some times and does put in a time that puts him ninth position at the moment. Enzo Cantor trying to make his way over to the line. He goes second as things stand. Simon Edwards now in sixth position. You've got to keep on looking. A lot of drivers will want to make their names. Philippe Laibert, Mr. 2K World Cup, is in fifth position. Alfredo Malo into second. Fantastic work by what he has been able to do in that fantastically coloured Giants livery, part of the Vodafone Giants Spanish-based outfit. 2 laps to get things sorted, but of course they got to be careful. Norbert Sulzer, a name that we haven't heard in a very long time in the 2K World Cup, moves himself onto the front row, so blink and you'll miss it. Your top 10: Tipton, Sulzer, Malo, Cantor, Zazo, Laibert, Antonides, Quiles, Seitz and Tuan Tran. Some drivers who haven't set lap times: Brian Lockwood, Ade Koba, 2 of the 3 championship rivals. Johnny Gindi hasn't set a lap time yet, but here's Brian Lockwood. Let's focus on the number 1, the reigning champion, tied second in the points at the moment with 2 out of the 3 drop weeks used. He will be looking to come to the line, but momentum is so vital for the second lap. He does not set a lap time. He will have to get this one working on the second lap for Ade Koba. I have a feeling this may be a similar situation as he makes his way out of the final corner. The Parabolica, which has been so useful. 2:14.4, I stand corrected, but that's only good enough for third position at the moment for the championship leader, and there's going to be a lot of waiting on the second laps. Let's focus then on Fahim Antonides for Thrustmaster Movano, 130 machine, rounding Parabolica, 120 kilometers an hour at the slowest point before getting back up onto the power and trying to shorten the track as much as possible using all of the road on the right hand side. You can run over that white line and try and get your lap time finished. Zazo moves up into second, and Antonides can only go third. 6 thousandths now separate at the top of this field. Simon Edwards now moves up into fourth. Qualifying positions here do not mean much. Francois Boulian, 2:15.5, miles down the order as things stand. Here comes Gindi, 2:13.9, first man to break the barrier, and he now puts himself in pole position. What about Enzo Cantor? He can't find anything to go a little bit quicker. Laibert, though, goes to the top of the timing stands at a very very crucial point, and I don't think Alfredo Mallo went any quicker. Lucas Loyart now currently in 12th position. Koba outside of the top 10 as things stand. So let's focus then on two drivers that we need to. One is Brian Lockwood into number 1, heading through Ascari. This left, right, left, which always can be incredibly difficult. Leibert, Gindi, Tipton, Solza, Zazo, your top 5 as things stands. But here is the racecraft engineering Skip Barber of Brian Lockwood, making his way to Parabolica at 190 kilometers an hour, and it almost feels a bit pedestrian 190 Ks, but this is the car that you learn if you want to get up through the ranks when it comes to iRacing, when it comes to trying to learn how to keep the car straight and steady and smoothen out your lines here on arguably the greatest simulator in the world. Here's Brian Lockwood though, and does a 2:14.102. That's good enough for the 3rd row only. Ade Koba then making his charge to the line and needs to find himself probably about 4/10 if he wants to put himself in the top 3 rows, and he does find that, but he only finds the 2nd row on a 2:13.998. Only a couple of drivers have yet to set 2nd lap times. One of them is Edwin Viarino in the Positive Sim Racing. University is the first Positive Sim Racing Skip Barber, the number 11. Viarino's had a couple of good results so far this season. We'll see if he's able to find something more. Currently 49, if not 50 drivers were wanting to set lap times here at this track, and he does a 2:14.929, a 2nd off the pace, and good enough only for the 13th row of the 14th row actually of the grid, which is not ideal. Carlos Olvera, though, he will make his way to the line. He's a mile down the order on his own. He's 43rd, 2:15.6, and he moves up to 31st on a 2:15.1, ahead of the 3:53 of Mehdi El Fati, as he has made his way with a bit of progress. Javi Ros, he will make a charge late with 20 seconds left in qualifying, and that's an okay time from him. He moves into 25th position, but that's pretty much it then for qualifying. Let's get up the starting grid for you. This is how everything will line up. Mr. 2K World Cup is back. Philippe Leibert on pole position, 2:13.874 for 23 laps worth of racing. Johnny Indy, the Evolution Racing team, will start in 2nd with Ade Koba and Vodafone Giants in 3rd. Justin Tipton starts 4th for TT Racing with Norbert Solza back in the series in 5th, with the reigning champion Brian Lockwood starting this one from 6th position. 7th is Borja Zaza with Fahim Antonides in 8th for Movano. Greg Seat starts 9th with Simon Edwards 10th. And then we look down, Enzo Cantra 11th, Carlos Quies in 12th position. Tuan Tran, winner last time out at Motegi, 13th. Brian Duell 14th, Lucas Loyart 15th, Alfredo Mallo down the order in 16th, Daniel Casas, Bastian Hausmann, James McCritchie and Andrea Ayman round out your top 20. And as we cycle down the rest of the field, likes of Steve Pacciacci and Javi Ros having okay qualifyings. Mike McCormick, not bad. Same for Adrian Jimenez. He had pretty okay qualifying by his standards. Carlos Fenno didn't find much, nor did Carl Dronke, and definitely not Francois Boulian. Drivers who didn't set lap times: Diego Francisco, Gustavo Conda, Jonathan De Coicha, and João Felix Diaz, or J. Felix Diaz, as I can see at this stage. So gridding process now in full effect. 2 minutes to get onto the starting grid, or you start from pit road, which at a track like Monza, you wouldn't be frowned upon for doing so. Incidents are normally frequent, especially at the tight, twisty Variante di Rettifilo turn 1 chicane. And if you're not careful, and if you've not got yourself waiting, incident can happen to anybody who has not thought about this race. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can get social with us here at Racebot TV. You can get us on the Twitter machine as well as on Facebook if you search up Racebot TV. And also in the chat, tell us how you're doing. Tell us, are you enjoying this race? Who's your favourite? Who do you want to win? And who is your magic little pick? This is going to be a very telling race for this championship. 2 minutes then, in about 5 seconds, are about to expire. And we're going to get the lights on top of the iRacing gantry. We're going to get ready for 23 laps worth of racing here at Autodromo Nazionale Monza. And let's get ourselves underway. And it is a good start then from the front row by Leibert and Gindi, as they will all form into single file. The draft so paramount here at Monza as they swarm their way down to the Variante del Rettifilo opening section. Koba pulls out as they all try to pull out. There's also in the back, there's Lockwood trying to go down to the outside to make it work, but Leber is clean through the opening section. Lockwood, though, a mighty lightning start, moving up into 5th position just behind Justin Tipton, who is in 4th. So a great start by Brian Lockwood. Are we all clean? One vehicle, Enzo Cantor, does not look clean, and that pretty much could signal day and done. He does have a fast repair, but he does not want to be able to use it at this early stage in the event. So Cantor, a big loser in the early goings. Variante della Roggia then for your leaders, and such an aggressive corner that needs to be attacked, and a lot of drivers thinking, okay, how do I attack in the early stages to the two Lesmos here. Lesmo 1, this right-hander at about 135 kilometers an hour before making your way, small light brake and maybe even a downshift into the second Lesmo at 126 kilometers an hour before you head back up the hill towards the Variante Ascari. Brian Duell leads a mini pack in the middle here in the number 88. He's got James McCritchie in there, Daniel Casas, the likes of Tuan Tran and Derek Issa, all there in the mix. So you've got to be careful and decide where do you pick your moves. No drivers making moves until you get to Duell, because there's James McCritchie down the inside. We see him in the UKNI Monday Night Skippies with Rachel Whiteford and the gang, and McCritchie makes the move, but at what cost? Because he's starting to lose Alfredo Mallo in the train just in front, which goes back a pretty hefty way. Now the run to Parabolica, though, for your leaders, and Ade Koba comes under pressure here. Tipton starts to think about making a move, but Koba goes on the offensive because Johnny Guindy backed out of it, didn't want to make the move on Philippe Leber, wants to use all of the fuel that Leber has so that his stop, his one mandatory pit stop in this event, is going to be used up. Now this is where we talk about Talladega night, because this is where drafting becomes so vital. Here goes Ade Koba going to the race lead, and a bit of a bump there maybe from Brian Lockwood. Come on, Guindy, I want to go. Tipton will start picking up the draft as well. He'll move past Guindy now up into 3rd position, and now we'll start attacking Leber for 2nd as well, and gets himself down to that inside. Does he make the move stick? Answer to that one is not quite sure yet. I think he just has, and he does get himself through. Borja Zazo in 6th position as well. You got Seats in 7th. In 8th, you got Quilles. Then you got Edwards and Mallow, 9th and 10th together. 3 wide behind, though, almost Macritchie, Duell, and Daniel Casas, all looking to try and go at it to the Della Roggia around Curva Grande, which is no trouble in these low-powered engines that they have here in the Skip Barbers. On the brakes they go, and Brian Duell holds off the position in the University Isabel. The first positive sim racing car has been there for a good number of years, looking to have that battle. Nice little scrap behind as well between Carlos Olvera and I believe that is Mike McCormick. This one going down for about 30th position here in the field, but Mike McCormick does win out the battle then in that miniature scrap. But it's been about now Justin Tipton trying to stay with Ade Koba over the course of this lap. The gap has extended out to about 0.7 of a second, and Tipton has to be careful that he does not fall outside of that 1 second window. That 1 second window is very, very telling, because if that does not work, and if you do not keep yourself in the draft, well, that's pretty much day and done. You're hoping for miracles in the States out of the championship leader. But Leber knows it, Lockwood knows it. They've got to stay in the mix. It's too wide. Noah's Ark behind as Greg Seats gets past Carlos Quilles. Simon Edwards makes his way past Alfredo Mallow. Now those in 6th or 7th to 10th, they've got to be careful now. They've got to start working together here, get themselves back on the leading train. They do not want to see them fall away to Borja Zaza. That gap already extending as Justin Tipton now will go too wide, looking to try and make something happen. That gap is 1.5 seconds. They are outside of the drafting range. So Justin Tipton then makes his way to the race lead, but look at the power move from Philippe Leber. He moves back down to the inside. Justin Tipton can't get a break then. Can he get the move sorted? The answer to that one, room being left as Leber runs a little bit wide and gets the move done. So Leber Laibert does well. He gets the race lead then on lap 3 out of 23. 20 laps remaining here in this one as Daniel Casas under pressure. Here's Cristobal Otero then in this battle going on a lot further down because Brian Dewell has just lost a number of positions, and that was a massive swing. They were 4 wide heading down into turn number 1. I wonder if we can get a replay if that's possible, because there was 6, 7, and there was actually contact in the pack as well, and I believe that was Steve Ficciacci, maybe Derek Issa. I believe it was Derek Issa who got a tap from behind, and that tap for Derek Issa from behind, I believe, comes not from Tuan Tran, but the vehicle he was next to, Martin Kruth. So Kruth on the brakes was trying to get himself in, and bang, there was contact. That's not what you want to be seeing here at Monza. Contact is so easy when you have so much overspeed in these vehicles thanks to the tow, which becomes more and more paramount as this race goes on. So there's differing strategies that you can do. You can go for the wild and crazy moves and hope that you stay within a second. You can play the calm game, like say maybe a Borja Zazo is. Stay on the back of a pack, let it pull you along, save some fuel, I think is the right way to go forward. You don't change tyres in this series. They're like Oreos, they do not break. But you have to make sure that you're doing the right strategy at the right time. Derek Issa under pressure. Here's Bastian Hausmann in the 181, going to go to the outside, looking to try and make a move. This one then should be plain sailing, and already is in this third pack, we can say, in this event. Your 3 packs, you got your race lead pack led by Justin Tipton, who is not having a lot of luck at the moment on the technical difficulty side. You've got also this second train, which is being headed by Carlos Quies, and then you've got the third train, which now sees 2 wide going on because Cristobal Otero is right, or Daniel Casas, sorry, is right to the pit wall, trying to maximize the track through the middle. Oh, is that Steve Ficciacci? It is. Ficciacci, thread yourself through the middle and take the position away. And actually look at how far back that Justin Tipton actually has dropped. He's dropped all the way back into 4th position. So I didn't quite catch that one into 1. He was just completely outflanked by the 3 championship leaders at the moment. 1 Mr. Lockwood, 1 Mr. Laibert, and 1 Mr. Koba, who are all scrapping out for this title. Worth talking about as well, Laibert and Lockwood, they fought for the championship last season. They are tied on points as things stand, 30 back of Ade Koba. It's Tipton in 4th, it's Guindy in 5th, and now Greg Seats in 6th position because Borja Zazo now has dropped back into the second train. Did not have a good Cariante de Rettifilio, backed out off of Johnny Guindy. That gives Seats the run through Curva Grande, and that's why Greg Seats finds himself through now into 6th position out on the road. Train of 5 then at the front of this field. Your third pack has 1 vehicle that has broken away. That's James McCritchie, who finds himself in no man's land in the 352, 11th position as things stand. He's got 4 seconds forward to Simon Edwards, Carlos Quiles, Malo, Seats and Zazo, but he's got to do it maybe a little bit more to try and get himself further forward, maybe use the stops. But here comes Laibert once more. This is the run to Parabolica. Now, you're not going to win the race by making overtakes in the early stages, but you certainly can lose it. And I think that a lot of drivers will be careful about how they make their moves and how aggressive they get, as Lockwood looks on the outside to go, okay, maybe I can peer my nose around and get myself a position. But look at how the draft is now starting to form, as now it's 3 wide between your 3 championship contenders as they charge over towards the line. If the race ended this time, Philippe Laibert would take it by 14 thousandths, but look at this between them. Lockwood, a lot of respect given between all 3 of them, but Brian Lockwood makes sure that he gets the position on lap 5 out of 23. Koba still defending here from Laibert on the inside as they make their way into 1, and just like that, Koba maintains 2nd position and arguably gets the best of the draft as well. Alfredo Malo now begins to break away from the pack behind as Quiles and Zazo begin their scrap. Now it changes between Seats and Quiles right now As on the outside, you can see Quiles will cede the position, or concede the position, shall I say, to a certain Greg Seats, who now looks to maybe think about going on the attack with Borja Zazo, but thinks better of it on the brakes. And that's what maybe, I'd say, less developed Skip Barber drivers need to start thinking about. How and when you push a move, because you can easily push a move at any given point in time. It's about how you do it so that you do not lose time, and that was the prime example there from Greg Seats of waiting for a moment where he cannot lose any time when it comes to the overtake that he wants. Fourth pack though, keep an eye on this. Diogo Francisco has been charging through the field. He's up 25 positions to 22nd. Behind him, Bernd Oswald. You've got the likes of Mehdi Al Fati, Francois Boulian and Miguel Garcia, and all five of them trying to get through. And as well as on the back, there's Mike McCormick, and there is also Francois Doricans, and they are looking to make pushes towards Anthony Cat and co. Right now, Diogo Francisco seems the only one who would be capable of doing that. 2:13.4 his last time by, and that 2:13.4, you could argue, is unparalleled, except for when you get to the likes of Ade Koba and Brian Lockwood. So certainly charging is Diogo Francisco. He has had the pace. Justin Tipton suffers, though, from technical difficulties. He had been threatening it. He is out of the event, the number 5 car, and that's going to be really hurting his championship. Pack of 4 then at the front of the field, and look at this. Once more, Brian Lockwood goes to the inside, and now Leibert says, well, you want a party, boys? Let's party. But don't forget Gindi, 2 Shoes himself, who won the first race at Motegi 2 weeks ago, so he could certainly be in play. 3 wide behind in the second pack. Mallow, Zazo, Seats, all together scrapping for 5th position. Zazo backs out of it on the brakes, and it is won very comprehensively by Alfredo Mallow. Leibert has the race lead now on lap 6 of the event. In theory, the pit stop window opens around now, but with such high fuel usage around this track, and there's a lot more. There's a vehicle sideways though in the 4th pack. I was keeping an eye on it as Mike McCormick makes the way past Mehdi Al Fati. It was Al Fati who had the mistake as vehicles go around to try and save it. They were almost 5 wide at one stage, heading themselves towards turn number 1. It was 3 wide and 2 wide. Mehdi Al Fati moves across, and he just moved across too much into Miguel Garcia. Nothing Garcia can do on the outside, and in fact Garcia does so well to slow it down despite having a tyre on the grass. Mehdi Al Fati goes sideways, and Mehdi Al Fati survives for another day. Insert your own jokes if you will. But for the moment, at least, it seems that the front 4 are going to behave themselves. Let's focus on this second pack for the moment. Mallow, Seats, Zazo, Quiles, and also Simon Edwards on the back. Let's go on board with the 747 of Simon Edwards for about half a lap or so. Going to take you Race Spot TV. Fan immersion. You want to know how difficult it is to make an overtake? There is the prime example. As they force themselves 3 wide, then 2 wide, then back to 3 wide again in front of Simon Edwards in the 747 gap. Though over that last lap, keep an eye on this one. Borja Zazo, 2:13.8 that last time by. It was a 2:14.2 by Johnny Gindi, who is the firm pace at the back of the field to understand how quick everyone's going. So that was 0.4 of a second that Borja Zazo was able to pick up, but there were 13.4s, 13.5s dotted around and 13.6s, which really did help the game. Daniel Casas, for example, though, he's under pressure as Cristobal Otero will go down the inside and will take the position away and move into the last spot inside of your top 10 once again. Derek Issa and Bastian Hausmann still on the train of that mini pack as well. But now the question becomes, I think that Leibert, Lockwood, Kober and co have to be very cautious because Borja Zazo, Greg Seats, Carlos Quiles, Malo Edwards all on the train, a 9-car train. That's not what any of these boys want in the front four. They've got a championship to think about. They don't want any more landmines coming in and disrupting the flow of this event on lap 7 out of 23. So they've got to get the hurry up message. They can't afford to be taking too long dilly-dallying about how and when they decide to go and make their moves, as we sometimes do see a little bit of a serpentine. Here's Greg Seats, though. He will go past Borja Zazo. Look at that. Two different teams, but very clearly working together in this scenario to make sure that they are in the prime position to close down those at the front of this race. They may not be fighting for the championship, but they are fighting for a victory, and they want to get there as soon as they can. Gap last time comes down again, so now it's just 1.5 seconds to Johnny Guindy, is now pick a lane 3 wide in the second pack, as now Alfredo Malo decides that he wants to start going aggressive. Brian Lockwood now takes your race lead at the start of lap number 8, but Borja Zazo holds on the defence and wants to lead this one from the front. Lockwood running wide out of the Rettifilio, has to be careful about doing that too often. Now who decides to come in early or come in late? 3 wide in the middle of the pack, Ronan Griffin, Carlos Fenno, Carlos Olvera, all together here. This is a great scrap, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. There's one chicken, that's Carlos Olvera. I don't blame him, but he's still going to send one down to the inside and pick a position away, as there is a sideways vehicle in front. He took Ronan Griffin pretty much for Sunday brunch, as Andres Robertson gets a little bit wide. Dom Parks and Fahim Antonides. Antonides, I think, has had to start potentially from the back of the field, or has had a very, very shocking start to this one. I believe it was from the back. And Antonides now trying to cycle his way through, and he will move down to the inside. He will get past Andreas Robertson and move himself then inside of the top 20 for the first time then today, despite starting from 8th position. Diogo Francisco, though, we've been keeping an eye on his progress, and he has been storming. He's 16 seconds off the race lead. He's now up into 13th position, and in fact has got past Cristobal Otero, so now up into 11th, looking to get into 10th now, past Daniel Casas. So keep an eye on what Diogo Francisco's able to do. Breakaway, though. Zazo's been able to keep the pace. Greg Seats has not, so maybe there's issues going on for the second pack as well. You've got to keep your head on a swivel when you're seeing events like this, because if you can't keep within 1 second of drivers in front, it's all going to go wrong. Kober, though, gets overtaken by Johnny Guindy. Is he starting to think about going to the front of the field so that he can decide to come in and make his pit stop from the lead? He likes doing that. Any takers then at the end of lap number 8, and Guindy thinks about it, but decides he wants to make an overtake instead of a pit stop right now. 3 wide once more for your race leaders here at Monza, and it's going to be pretty close between everybody at this stage. Here comes Guindy, though. He's on the inside of Brian Lockwood, and he should have superior brakes in the Evolution Racing Team car, and he even block passes Lockwood, so he doesn't have an option to stay on that outside. Good driving there as they keep themselves in. Zazo does lose 3/10 though in terms of this one in this event, as there is Diogo Francisco actually losing positions to Otero and Casas. So the Spaniards all together, all in a little bit of a fight, which they don't quite want to be in at this stage. Still a couple of cars on pit road. Ronan Griffin has just dived onto the lane, as has Tuan Tran. So the pit stop window then at the end of lap 8 firmly can be called as open in this situation, so a lot of drivers then know what they need to do. Some of your big moves and shakers, though, in and around your top 10. Diogo Francisco up 35 positions so far in this race, and that is freakishly good. Francois Boulian himself up 32 positions. Cristobal Otero's up 19, and we haven't seen too many big incidents in the back of the field either. So it's not been like there has been a massive crash which has shaken up the field. There are some drivers in this race who can make pretty good positions as they charge forward. Guindy, though, is still trying to keep this pace up and is trying to break Ade Cobra off the back of this one. Cobra is in the fringes of the draft and will be able to keep himself in place. About 7/10 of a second back as now they're 3 wide to Parabolica of all things. This ain't the last lap, boys. Go careful. Guindy forced all the way to the inside to try and make it happen. He backs out of it. Leibert versus Lockwood. The two of them have been equal all season long, and now Brian Lockwood, the number one, the reigning champion, tries to apply the power on the exit, but Leibert dives down onto the lane and is followed by Ade Cobra. So strategy at the end of lap 9 comes fully into play as now working together must be Guindy, must be Brian Lockwood at this stage. So the pit stop window is in as we look at Greg Seats, who's had, I think, a big moment here as he has dropped a lot of time. So we caught an eye on Greg Seats as well. I didn't. That was out of the final corner. There was contact there as Borja Zazo tried to open up to get around the outside. Greg Seats goes around. I didn't see that one because I was looking at the battle for the race lead, and Greg Seats, oh my goodness me, he does not get much luck when it comes to this series. Arguably one of the most underrated drivers that you will see. A spin at the final corner as now out of pit road. Philippe Leibert clearly beats Ade Cobra. Cobra took a lot more fuel than Leibert, and now Cobra's got work to do. Zazo in the middle of nowhere. Mallow, Edwards, they came in. You got the likes of Francisco coming out ahead of Greg Seats, who had that spin, and the charge off of pit road for the likes of Francois Boulian now trying to get past Derek Issa. Backs out of it then in the Orion race team colours. So everyone deciding lap 9, lap 10, perfect time to come down and make a pit stop. At the moment, it was everyone except the front two that came down onto the lane. So Lockwood and Guindy, now they've got to think about how do we cover this off, because it's not a tyre cover off that you're going to see. They don't change the tyres. It's the case of, is my pace good enough? The good news for the pair of them, there is a partner to tango with that the likes of Lockwood and Guindy can have. They can work together now to try and stop Philippe Leibert in this event. And actually what will be very telling is if Leibert has been perfect on the fuel or if somebody else has been a little bit lax on it as things stands. But there are a few vehicles going a bit squirrely. One of them was Otero, who will lose 2 positions on his fresh fuel, shall we say, as he loses positions to Daniel Casas and Derek Issa through the Variante della Roggia. This mini pack, a train of 5, all scrapping it out together. They all know that they need to be well positioned then in this event. It seems like almost everybody went, well, if the car in front is going to pit, then so am I, as you're leading to now dive in at the end of lap number 10. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those 2-stop events here today, with the way that everyone's coming in at a very similar time. So that's going to mean that strategy is going to be very telling for the splashes and the dashes. Lockwood then will be the very first person to hit his box out of these two and should be leaving his box first, but will he leave the pit lane first is the next question. In terms of where Leibert is, he's rounding himself through the final corner, heading himself on the front stretch now, and I think Johnny Guindy missed his box ever so slightly as well. Look at them coming out of pit road. Guindy still ahead, but now they're side by side. Leibert has absolutely blitzed them coming off of pit road. Through then goes a second driver, that one being Ade Cobra, and then even more coming through as Borja Zazo makes his way through. So both of them getting themselves some pretty slow stops, but they are going to try and play the fuel save game, I would feel, between now and the end of this event. A full tank of fuel, you would feel, for Guindy and for also Brian Lockwood. They are now in 4th and 5th position. So let's get a shuffle up. Let's see how the field now starts to stack up. Philippe Leibert leads this one then with Ade Cobra in 2nd position. Borja Zazo is in 3rd with Johnny Guindy in 4th. And Brian Lockwood now in 5th position. Carlos Quiles is in 6th with Alfredo Mallow 7th. Simon Edwards is on the back of the train in 8th with James McCritchie in 9th. And Brian Duell and Anthony Katz still out there on track 10th and 11th. as things stand at the moment. Francois Boulian, though, trying to go around the outside of Derek Issa. This one is for 16th position out on the road, and can he get it done on the brakes? The Orion man, he just about gives room, but now we'll have to struggle on the exit here. Will not have the traction, nor though did the vehicle on the inside of Derek Issa. That has completely checked up the train, as Casas and Garcia could not find a way through. So this will mean that Otero gets the chance to walk away then in this battle. He now gets himself a good 0.6 of a second, but as we know, that's nothing around this track. That can be closed up in the blink of an eye, or shall we say one run down to the Rettifilia. But keep an eye out on certain drivers. Simon Edwards, for example, hasn't made any moves so far today, as now Brian Lockwood looks to get past Johnny Guindy. This one back again for fourth position out on the road, and move completed then goes Brian Lockwood at the Parabolica, but with Guindy want the opportunity to get back and gain some time once more. That we will have to play a waiting game for. Gap at the front of the field, though. Keep an eye on this one. The gap is 3 seconds to the good for Philippe Lebert. Ade Koba has a 2.2 second advantage over Borja Zazo, and Brian Lockwood is a further 1.2 behind. But look at the swarm now. Carlos Quiles wants to get in. Alfredo Mallo thinking about it, but all of them backing off of it into the Rettifilia. They know that they do not want to be battling, not one bit here in this one. Little scrap behind as well as Diogo Francisco. 3 of the 4 cars in this train are TT Racing. Ficciacci, Seats, Houseman, all there trying to deal with the one man against the machine at this stage, which is Ficciacci. And for the moment, it seems like it is all good at the moment. So as far as things go, Ficciacci not actually having a bad race at all, up 14 positions and looking to try and get even better the longer that this race goes on. But there are so many factors. Of course, we've been talking about this 2-stop race and how the fuel can be mighty, as we have just passed over the halfway stage in this event after 25 minutes worth of racing. We also have a lot more that can be worked on. Borja Zazo, though, caught by Guindy and Lockwood, and now they will be swallowed up and they will be forced to work together. Here comes Guindy, though, on the outside as they head their way to the left of the Ascari chicane, underneath the old banking, which was used back in the early days of the Formula 1 season. You can actually run that on the iRacing service, and you sometimes see a few week 13 races being done over on that. A little squirrely from Lockwood, though, as he tries to put the power to get past Zazo in the battle 3rd, 4th, 5th, as well as the Campos boss is going to get blocked in. Fantastic tactics then from Brian Lockwood. He storms to the front of the peloton, shall we say, looking to chase down the leading 2 of Lebert and Koba. But Lockwood, fantastic little dive around the outside. But how much time has actually been won by making these moves? Guindy, though, will look to try and get back past. So the gap we were looking at was about 6.4 seconds. That's a second taken off by the Guindy-Lockwood train. That's fantastic. That's exactly what they are looking to do. Use the fuel, gain some time back, as now Carlos Quiles gets in on the action and makes his way then up a little bit further forward. Gap at the front, though, comes down by a tenth, or doesn't come down, it extends by a tenth up to 3.1 seconds here between Lebert and Koba, which is not what Koba wants to see, because on his own, he's now got to do qualifying times better than his opponent. Ficciacci under pressure from Bastian Houseman, orange due to the Dutch colours, and he makes his way through. So Ficciacci now on the back of that little train. 3 wide in the background there was Carlos Fenno, Daniel Casas, Francois Boulian, Miguel Garcia, and also Tuan Tran, who's not having a good day today. And that a little bit of a nice scrap as they move on forward. That's Carlos Fenno doing a good job in the 3-2-3 to move himself into 19th position. Boulian trying to pick a pocket but cannot find a pocket to pick on the inside of Curva Grande, and boxed in as well. Defensive already from Carlos Fenno, but he knows that he's not going to be attacked now into the Variante della Roggia. He will just play a waiting game from here on in. Otero, though, a little bit further in front, battle for 16th, trying to get past Derek Issa down the inside of Lesmo number 1. He makes that move sorted. get himself up a position, which is exactly what he has been looking for. We haven't talked much about these three, though, who are 9th, 10th, and 11th. James McCritchie, Brian Dewell, and Anthony Catt. Anthony Catt especially has been pretty much a sleeper agent throughout this event. Hasn't really done much. We've seen how strategy can come into play. Maybe a short stop early to get the long stops out of the way. But that's going to be very good to see. But the pack has splintered, though, from Borja Zarzo back, because Alfredo Malo makes his way through. And I wonder if Zarzo has damage on his car. A little tear up of the front wing, but nothing dramatic so far from Zarzo. Maybe he's struggling, maybe he's on a fuel save, but it has been a struggle for Borja Zarzo. And you can see he is struggling in a straight line. So through will go Simon Edwards going, you know what, I can't stay around for tea and coffee. I've got to go get to the front of the train. Quilles, Lockwood, Guindy have broken away, and now they are clawing that gap down. Under 5 seconds between them right now. 1.6 back to Ade Koba. Koba is being swallowed in by the machine. Guindy, Lockwood, Quilles are reeling in the rest of them. And Carlos Quilles, who started 12th in this event, is doing a wondrous job to bring himself back into contention in the second half of this event. And that you have to commend at this stage of the race. We do have Tuan Tran on the lane once more. We have Derek Issa on the lane once more for second stops then, as we are in the final pit stop window as things stand. About 8 laps to go next time they cross the start-finish line. So work to be done for a lot of drivers, and a lot of drivers know they have to keep themselves in tip-top condition. No chance for concentration to break then here with, so far in this event, about half an hour plus being driven for Philippe Laibert. He's been here so many times before, a multiple-time champion in the Skip Barber 2K World Cup, Mr. 2K World Cup. He has been there and has been so influential to this series, and not many can find a way to get past and beat him. You talk about the likes of Nico Nassi, you talk about the likes of Richard Avery. Certain drivers like Brian Lockwood have made their way to the big time before, but there are so many drivers in this series who could step up and have a shot. Here is Guindy, though, ceding the position once more to Brian Lockwood. So Lockwood makes his way through. I think a bit of a hurry-up message is getting given now by the drivers, because Koba's just going to try and find himself a bit more pace as Philippe Laibert actually dives down onto the lane. He makes his final stop early, so he now sets the gauntlet of coming first once more. So now, here's the question. Where does Laibert come out in comparison? We'll keep an eye on his pit stop, because this is going to be a very, very crucial one. Looking for the final box on the grid stalls, and he will find it perfectly. No real worries, no reason to change the tyres. He will now get the fuel and get back out and going again. Has to be a little bit careful about leaving pit road, because of course that wall arches back in. You can see he has to take a very sharp turn left to get himself back out, and more crucially than that, if he has traffic, and he's behind Francois Boulian at least, so Brian Dewell, James McCritchie came in, he's ahead of the Mike McCormick train that's going 3 wide. There's Bernd Oswald going through the middle. Let's go 4 wide, shall we? Almost. Bernd Oswald gets through. Javi Rose was trying to force his way through as Laibert now gets clean air to attack, which might just be the best thing, as McCormick now will lose 2 positions because of having to check up due to a certain Mr. Bernd Oswald just encroaching on his line ever so slightly. But crucially, enough is enough, as Ade Koba, championship leader, now has the race lead in this event. But for how long is the question, because Guindy and Lockwood are closing. Quilles wants to get in on it. Alfredo Malo now on the back of the train. You cannot count him out for Giants, because he has been so strong at so many tracks. He is surely on course to be up there as definitely a contender for championships in the 2K World Cup. Maybe a winner, we will see in the future. But for the moment at least, now who responds to Philippe Laibert? Guindy and Lockwood, 2 wide, they go to Parabolica. Do you choose your position wisely? The answer is it's a wide pit road, so maybe it doesn't matter as much if you have the track position or not. But that gap is crucially trying to come down, maybe a little bit wide there from Brian Lockwood, which is not ideal, as everybody decides to stay out and try and make something happen. But look at Koba trying to break the toe here at 1.2 seconds. That's the crucial thing. 1.2, you're right on the fringes. You may start to get a little bit, and that's what Koba's a little bit worried about. Wants the drivers behind to start fighting each other, and they just aren't here, as Alfredo Malo gets past Quiles, and suddenly Edwards and Zazo are on the back of the train as well, which is not good at all. Anthony Cat comes in for his final stop, off ahead of the likes of Greg Seats, Diogo Francisco, and Bastian Hausmann, the TT train. Choo-choo, all aboard. And that's going to be worrying where Anthony Cat comes out, because he was in that scrap, remember, with the 88 of Brian Duell, who is on the back of a train, which is going to be very, very vital for him, with Andrea Ayman and Oscar Chinchilla, as they will look to have their scrap. Off of pit road will now come Anthony Cat. I think he will fall behind Brian Duell, and the answer is very convincingly fall behind Brian Duell. Good work from Duell. He's got the jump on Anthony Cat, and I think James McCritchie as well. McCritchie, not much he can do. He's broken Anthony Cat almost by a second. Not enough right now, but suddenly Koba is being reeled in. That gap under a second for the first time in a little while. Ever since that first pit stop, Guindy has been reeling that gap in. Eye on Leibert as well, because he will have to catch like some Miguel Garcia Sanchez, who is 4 seconds down the road. But to Lockwood, he's trying to get past Guindy once more. Ade Koba's being caught. Train of 6 now at the front of the field. In fact, it's a little bit more. It's a train of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at the front, with Diogo Francisco currently in 8th position, starting all the way down in 47th to start this event. That tells you how quick you need to be if you can make your way up through a field like that from the very back of this one. Koba is caught, but can you do the stop quicker than Mr. 2K World Cup? Koba maybe thinking about diving onto the lane. Does he? Yes, he does. He releases Guindy and goes, right, I've given you some draft, now go use it here, as now the championship leader makes his way onto pit road. Lockwood goes down to the inside and inherits the race lead away from Johnny Guindy, which is vital for his championship efforts as well. So now keep an eye on where Philippe Leibert is number 2 in comparison, rounding Parabolica as we speak. But Ade Koba, he has been so good in these sorts of races. He has the championship lead for a reason, but we will see where the 301 will come out in comparison. Out and away comes the Vodafone Giants man, gets himself off of the 62k limit, and now looks to try and put the power down. Where is Leibert? There going through was Miguel Garcia, so Leibert won't be too far away, and crucially, Leibert isn't too far away, but jumped in the stop by Ade Koba. Fantastic stop by Ade Koba. Enough to give himself net race lead as things stand, but it's not decisive because you got Guindy and Lockwood and Quiles, as actually Brian Lockwood runs incredibly wide through Lesmo 1 and loses the end, and he's into the Armco and straight across the circuit, almost takes out Carlos Quiles and Alfredo Malo. Oh, Brian, you've just thrown away a massive opportunity to win this race if you're not careful. Just like that. That's why you pit early, because the train can derail, as it just has. Quiles and Malo did so well to get away from Brian Lockwood. Guindy, though, crucially, is clear. The Mexican from Evolution Racing Team has done so well in so many championships, has had a real-world racing career to boot as well from his sim racing efforts. And now, all of a sudden, Two Shoes Guindy is starting to look at Mr. 2K World Cup and Ade Koba, thinking, I could take the lead here and I could take this race with just 6 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line. Lockwood may have just thrown away a big opportunity to go and win this race, but needs a magical pit stop for anything to happen. Does Guindy dive? Guindy stays out. Malo stays out. Quiles stays out. Lockwood says, I've had enough. I'm coming down. He has a fast repair to use, remember, if there was any damage to begin with. so that may be something just to keep an eye out on. Adekoba under pressure though, the 301, as Felipe Laibert dives down to the inside, easily making a move at Parabolica, or just before Parabolica actually, and making sure that Adekoba knows his place and stays behind. But if Koba was light on fuel, he wants to be behind Felipe Laibert. He wants to be sat behind and saving as much fuel as possible. Let's look at Brian Lockwood though. He will come out and away. Where will he come out in comparison to all of this? He was about 1.5 seconds of your race leader Guindy coming down onto the lane, and he had a very good first stop. Is he out and away, and is he clear? He is clear at the moment, and that's crucial, clear by a good couple of seconds to boot as well, but overshoots it slightly through turn number 1. Has to be careful through the second half of the Retafilio, and just like that, Laibert is there on the rear of Brian Lockwood, who was not sure how the suspension was faring after that incident at Lesmo number 2. So all of a sudden, now Brian Lockwood's got a fight with the championship contenders. The race is a different factor. Guindy is being reeled in by Quilles and Malo, and I think these three will be fighting it out for the race victory, which is going to be very, very telling about the caliber of talent that you find in this series. Malo started 16th. Quilles started in 12th position. Both of them with a shot to win this race if their pit stops so desire it right now. Guindy, who was 1.2 clear at the line, is not 1.2 clear now, and he knows it, and he knows just how much pressure there is seeing Lockwood's mistakes. Laibert and Koba a little bit far back, but now there's a bit of issues for Diogo Francisco, who ran a little bit wide at Ascari after his fantastic run. He just missed the braking point, and straight on he would have to go to try and avoid any further damage to his TT Racing vehicle. Takers. Guindy decides now's the time, and he is the only one to go. That leaves Quilles and Malo out at the front of the field. So Guindy now, can he get himself to stop? He had a 1.5 seconds buffer over Brian Lockwood. It seems that it is an overcut that is working here today, as now Laibert makes his way through, and Adekoba makes his way through on Brian Lockwood into Parabolica, as now this train looks for Johnny Guindy and hopes it goes away. Sights is in. Francisco is also in. Out and away goes Johnny Guindy then off of his box. Where is the Lockwood train? The answer is it's just coming across the start-finish line now. Remember, Guindy's got to get up to racing speed at the Retafilio turn number 1, but I think he's got himself a little bit of a buffer at this stage. It's 193 k's against 160. Guindy is crucially clear of the 3 title rivals, Koba, Laibert and Lockwood, who are all in this train. So now Carlos Quilles, now Alfredo Malo. What do you do? Malo leads this event here. He's made the overtake on Carlos Quilles, and now with 5 laps to go, there is a question mark over the race victory, because it may have to rely on Malo, Quilles and Guindy coming together for the championship leaders to start thinking about, okay, we thought we were all in this for a race victory. Now we may not even be in this for a podium. And that is a scary, scary prospect. Malo making his way then up through, and there's going to be an overtake here. Carlos Quilles wants down to the inside, and he will go down to the inside. They are working together at every single corner to try and get as much draft out of it as possible. Carlos Quilles having a fantastic run then as he gets himself through Ascari and looks to charge on a little bit forward himself. Also a giant as well, so that's something just to keep in mind. 3 Giants cars all looking to scrap it at the very, very front of this field, and they understand it, they know it, they know what they have to do in this race. Quilles and Malo, any takers onto pit road? They both decide to go on the lane. This is a very pivotal moment then at the end of lap 19, the start of lap 20 with 4 laps to go. It is a splash, and it will be a proverbial dash to try and get to Johnny Guindy as quickly as they can. Guindy rounds Parabolica at this very stage. And the Evolution Racing Team man who won race number 1, which was on the road at Motegi, couldn't do it in the oval, now needs the perfect run out of Parabolica, which he got Was it 2 perfect pit stops, though? Answer is yes, they were. Mallow is behind Quillez, though. Quillez will get up to speed first. Can they stay with Johnny Guindy? Guindy breezes past, and does he have a second to work with? Guindy does! Guindy does! And Johnny Guindy now is primed for a race victory. Quillez tried to do everything, as did Alfredo Mallow. All of them have been trumped by a certain Johnny Guindy, and that pretty much tells you all you need to know. It's a 5-car train for second position now, which hosts Brian Lockwood, Felipe Laibert, Ade Koba, Alfredo Mallow, and Carlos Quillez. It is Giants 2, 3, 4, and you wonder now if the Giants say Koba, get yourself to the front of the field. Issues though for the 48. That's Diogo Francisco of all people, who started from 47th here today. That was on the front stretch as well. You never ever want to crash on a straight, and there was the prime example. They were trying to go 4 wide, and that was Francisco, Seitz, McCritchie, and Anthony Catt as well. And it just seems that McCritchie and Francisco came together because McCritchie decided, okay, I'm coming out, give me room. Room was not given. McCritchie gets into it then with Francisco, and I believe Greg Seitz gets a piece of this one as well. The answer to that one is yes, and that is a lot of hurt and damage on the front stretch. And Anthony Catt, well, you can have a grin as large as the Cheshire Cat after a move like that. But races are still on. Guindy is still clear. Question the fuel, though. We always question the fuel in this series. Certain driver, Vinicius Rocha, you'd always get leads like this, and you'd say, question the fuel. But Guindy has been very economical when it has come to the fuel. Here comes Ade Koba, though, for the podium against Carlos Quillez, and will take the position. But crucially, Laibert is going to follow him, shadow him like a hawk, and now will go down to the inside at Parabolica and get the run off the exit 2, and that's 2 positions. And then Brian Lockwood's going to start getting in on the action. Mallow at the front of this field. 3 laps remain here at Monza, and now they're 3 wide in the scrap for second position, and they're 2 wide behind, and they're trying to get as much tow as possible. Look on the outside, dropping back, knowing he doesn't want anything to do with this one. That was Alfredo Mallow, who goes from front to back of the train, as now Koba and Laibert go at it together, 2.5 seconds back of Johnny Guindy, and Guindy has himself the lead, but it's now Laibert who puts himself in second position. Now it's Lockwood in 4th, with Ade Koba in 3rd, and now it's going to be Laibert taking not many points out of Ade Koba, but enough, I think, is going to be the right way to look forward at it at this stage. So for the moment at least, we're going to focus on this one as Koba makes his way around the outside of Felipe Laibert at Curva Grande into the Della Roggia, the second chicane, Hamilton and Vettel chicane for those who aren't really too versed with their Italian. But for the moment at least, Ade Koba in second knows this championship means a lot. He's won by margins. He's won by fractions at Spa-Francorchamps over Greg Seitz. He knows what it takes to win races. He knows what it takes to get the big money points. Johnny Guindy has done it on the strategy card so far, but we are not too sure. For Mallow and Quillez in the back of this pack, they're going to be playing that waiting game, that precious waiting game. Can we harass the vehicles in front, Laibert and also Lockwood? Can we put that pressure on to give maybe a little bit of hope in the latter stages of this event? There will be only a bit over 11 kilometers to go come the end of this race. Here comes Laibert down to the inside, and you feel that maybe they're trying to work together to peg back Guindy. It's going to be an almighty effort if they're trying to go for a race victory and they're all working together. At some point, someone's going to have to count their chickens and go, no, I want to get second. Slide sideways from Felipe Laibert through Parabolica. That was commitment plus, in the words of Jay Kennedy. That was fantastic to see. And now you start thinking here, Brian Lockwood angling to the inside, thinking, what can I do? Let's go 2. Let's go 3 wide protagonists once again. And the gap did not come down, only by a 1/10 of a second. Now let's start thinking here. If you are Carlos Quillez, get back in on the action. Get back in to try making moves. Do we dare go 4 wide into turn number 1? Or we go 2 wide, too deep? And that's going to be Quillez taking Laibert, who goes from 2nd to 5th in the blink of an eye, and that's what the old school Formula One racing was all about. Lockwood gets himself a bit of breathing room away from Adekoba, but now Quilez is starting to get into the mix here, starting to be a cat amongst the proverbial pigeons, which a lot of people will be saying, well, good on you, Carlos. Keep on your battle and keep on your merry way. For the moment, at least, Guindy will be safe when it comes to that margin, but into the Della Roggia they come once again. Brian Lockwood knows that he's got to do something to spark, ignite a championship push, and that is finish ahead of Adekoba at each of the final 5 rounds of the championship if you are to stand a chance at getting a victory. Other battles include Bastian Hausmann versus Simon Edwards. That's for the final spots inside of the top 10. And a good little scrap between Francois Boulier and Cristobal Otero, and also Carlos Fenno as well. That one's going on. The 13th, 14th and 15th position in this event. But now all of a sudden, where do you go and make a move? How do you decide to go and make a move? Indy will be laughing if they start tripping over each other. He's been needing some consistency. His championship, he's got to think about that one as well, because he is not in a primed position, hasn't been from his early start to the season, but he's starting to find the form that says, I'm a title contender. Let's go 3 wide to Parabolica here, and this is going to be a little bit dangerous on the brakes. Quilez down on the inside. Lockwood gave a lot of room on the outside, can now start pinching down the line and getting the power off of the exit, and now Alfredo Malo wants to get in. White flag comes out then at Monza. One final lap for Johnny Guindy at the front of all of this, and hoping that he's got enough fuel to get himself there, and it's to the inside they go. They're 4 wide as they head down the front stretch. The title protagonist 3 wide now as Leibert on the outside, Cobra on the inside. Lockwood struggling in the middle to get himself in, but he will be the bravest of them all as they go onto the brakes. Can they do it? Guindy's slowing up slightly though. They've got to be careful about that. Johnny Guindy did not look brilliant on the brakes in front of them in the race lead. That gap has come down under 2 seconds for the first time. Scrapping behind now is Lockwood, desperate not to lose any points to Malo or to Quilez, and they will have to be careful about how they fight. But now it's going to be Koba versus Mr. 2K World Cup. Philippe Leibert, a former champion in his own right. Guindy is clear for the moment and was lifting and coasting, crucially, into corners. He's not worried, well, he is worried about the fuel. Leibert is sideways through both corners then of the Della Roggia. This is allowing Adekoba a chance maybe at Lesmo 1. Not an overtaking opportunity you want to take, but one that he decides to back out of, which allows Brian Lockwood an opportunity to get back in here at the second Lesmo. This fantastic right-hander, which now track limits get abused as much as possible, because now is not the time. You also have to worry about certain things like instant limit for Brian Lockwood, who's on 16, cannot afford to make contact with anybody come at the end of this race. That much is crucial. Koba is searching for a move, and all of a sudden diving down to the inside is Alfredo Malo on Brian Lockwood here, and there's not much you can do, because look at that, it was actually Carlos Quilez who made the move, and Brian Lockwood now starting to fade, and his championship now falling away more and more as Alfredo Malo tries to get in. For Johnny Guindy, it's been sensational, but look at this. Leibert's under pressure. He's got to hold off Adekoba on the outside. Will now try and go the Iberian, the Spaniard here, as he tries for Vodafone Giant to go around the outside to make something happen. It will be a drag race for second, and vital point. But for Johnny Guindy, the strategy paid off, and Johnny Guindy two-shoes himself, now puts himself in the title picture. Victory at Monza, drag race, photo finish for second position. Adekoba's stolen another one, this time 6 thousandths of a second, says he was better. Leibert gets third, it's Quilez in fourth. Lockwood's championship now fades in fifth, with Alfredo Malo coming home in sixth position. It is Brian Dewell for seventh, Anthony Cat for eighth, and a drag race for the final spot, as it was going to be Simon Edwards who would beat out Bastian Hausmann. Johnny Guindy, he did the strategy game, he played it to perfection, and he gets himself what he wants. The battle for P12, mighty close over to the line as well, and they keep on coming here. Drag race finishes 3 wide to the line with Martin Cruz and co, and I think that was Miguel Garcia Sanchez. No, it wasn't. It was Martin Cruz who takes it from Tran and Casas then. come the end of this one. A few drivers getting a little bit short then on fuel as they drive themselves over to the line. João Felix Diaz, Edwin Villarino and Hans Hoyer in their own little scrap. João Felix Diaz got the run. Has he over the line? I think that's Villarino who's stolen one. And Villarino does by 18 thousandths of a second. So some good little battles over towards the end. But let's get classified results up on your screen. This is how things have finished, though, here at Monza. Johnny Guindy, 2 shoes, 2 weeks in a row, picks up a victory. He got one at Motegi. He's now got one here at Monza. The winning margin, 1.8 seconds exactly over Ade Koba, with Philippe Lebert only 6 thousandths back, crucially losing points in third. Carlos Quiles proved his worth in 4th position, 5th going to Brian Lockwood, 6th to Alfredo Mallow in the end. Brian Doell finished 7th with Anthony Katz in 8th. Simon Edwards got caught with a speeding penalty. He could have been right up there, finishing in 9th position, with Bastian Hausmann rounding out the top 10. Steve Ficciacci finishes 11th. Fahim Antonides recovers from issues to finish in 12th. Francois Boulian finishes 13th, with Carlos Fenno beating out Cristobal Otero Roman. We've got the likes of Miguel Garcia Sanchez, 3 scrap over to the line. Cruz Tran and Casas and Andreas Robertson rounding out the top 20. You look further down, Oscar Chinchilla making up some good positions. So did Gustavo Conda, making up a good 25 positions by his own accord. The likes of Lucas Loyart struggled today. Mehdi El Fati, we saw his big sideways moment. He gains 5 positions in the end to 28th place. Edwin Villarino finishes 30th. Look on the 4th page, the likes of Rob Adams, Don Parks, the Don, Carlos Olveira, Carl Dronke, not a day. Carl Dronke, same said, but Enzo Cantor a minute 58 off in the end. Vehicles a lap down or failing to finish. Francois Doricans, Diogo Francisco, Greg Seats, likes of James McCritchie, Javi Rose, Borja Zazo. Michael Filder struggled today. So did Justin Tipton with issues. Christian Kabanga as well. One non-taker being Jonathan De Koisha. And Norbert Solzer got disqualified at the start of this event. My goodness me. What a race we have seen. And straight on to interviews we go. Johnny Guindy then, joining myself here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Johnny, 3 races, 2 wins. Are we starting to talking championship material here, Johnny?
I hope so. Well, if you extended an extra race, it'd be 4 races, 3 wins. So it's looking pretty good recently. I'm just looking to keep this going.
The form book in your favour, but it was a hard-fought victory in your side. It had to be done on the strategy game, which Evolution Racing Team loved to do. They loved to play with the light fuel loads as well. Let's just talk about that final stop. You gain yourself about a 2-second advantage over the likes of Brian Lockwood. What's your feelings then when Brian Lockwood has a big moment behind you at Lesmo 2 and is heading, or just before Lesmo 2, and is heading straight on?
Yeah, I didn't know if he would continue in the race. Luckily for him, he was able to come out of the pits with the other pack behind me. But yeah, it was a little bit scary. Not just the incident, but just losing a little bit of time there, because I could have been the difference between coming out of the second pit stop within the draft of the guys behind or not. So yeah, it was important to risk it a little bit and go around the incident as quickly as I could. And then after that, obviously the last stint, I had to save a bit of fuel. So pretty much all of those laps, I was lifting, coasting, going into corners, and then the last 3 laps, I was at 70% throttle for the entire lap, pretty much. But yeah, I'm just really, really happy, especially because the strategy I went for in the end wasn't the one I was planning on, since I pitted on different laps, so I had to recalculate as I was driving. So that was tricky, but luckily it came off pretty good.
From here, though, in 2 weeks' time, 4th of November, it's Belle Isle. There's no other way around it. It is the street circuit, which bites back. It has been, I guess, very underrated coming into the iRacing service. Now it's here. Everyone either loves it or hates it. It's like Marmite. Johnny, Belle Isle. Are you a street circuits man?
Love it. Yeah, definitely. Anything where there's walls near the track, I'm usually good at. I don't know why. but I don't think anything can beat Belle Isle on that aspect. So yeah, I think I'm really, really quick at Belle Isle, from what I know so far. So yeah, I'm looking to make it 4 out of 5.
Well, we may see that in 2 weeks' time. Before we let you go, shout out sponsors. Anyone you'd like to thank for your third victory in 4?
Well, all of VRT's sponsors, Motum Simulations, Logitech G, and JRT. And obviously, it's a bit of a shame that no one else in the team could make it today. I think Arjen was on a business trip, and Paul was off doing something rather. And Jordy, he's just not really quick, so it's not a huge loss that he didn't show up.
Well, that's one way to talk about your teammates. Johnny Gindy then coming home with a race victory, second position.
Don't worry, Jordy would say the exact same thing about me, so that's how we get along.
Well, it's a nice little budding friendship then between them, but it would have been second position had it not have been for 0.06 of a second. Philippe Lebert comes home in third. Philippe, vital points lost for the championship.
Well, I don't think so. I led more laps than a day, and I had pole, so I think I scored more points than him.
Of course, you always got to look at the rules as well, but crucial strategy play. You got yourself out to the front very early on. You made the early call on the pit stop. You got ahead of everybody on the pit stop strategy. Was that in order to try and gain those bonus points for most laps led?
Yes, exactly. So I wanted to pit early and short fill so I could lead at least 5 more laps. And then I was hoping to come out in clean air, which I did, which was good. And I was a little quicker than a day, so things were looking good. And I knew Johnny had short filled, so we were 2 seconds behind. And Adain and I were working together. We were closing in like little by little. But then we got that duo that came out of the pits out of nowhere. I don't know how they did that because they weren't anywhere near the front. And that really ruined our strategy. So in the end, I'm pretty happy with third, although losing by 6/1000ths of a second is not that fun.
Well, it's not that fun, but you have yourself a very, very difficult challenge in 2 weeks' time. It's Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle. And my goodness me, you go from what is a very easy overtaking circuit to one which isn't and is so pinpoint accurate. Do you feel like Belle Isle is going to be a struggle for drivers up and down the field, especially with it being new to the calendar?
It's going to be a struggle for me. I hate that track. I think I've done 3 laps in a row without crashing so far. So it's not looking good, and I will have a lot of incidents.
Well, 3 laps in a row is better than I can do. So Philippe, shout out sponsors who gets it done at TT Racing.
Yeah, shout out to my team. I think we were 4 of them today, almost 5. I don't know, 5 even, or 6. I lost count. We are so many. And thanks to our league sponsor, DES Simulation, for supporting us for a 2nd season in a row.
No worries at all. Philippe Lebert coming home in 3rd position, but that calls for a curtain then here on the iRacing Esports Network. Remember, you can subscribe right now, this very second, if you want to see more sim racing action on iRacing. Things like all 6 of the World Championships, which are starting to come towards their conclusions. So much is going to be wanted to be watched. Let's not forget here, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of people that get it done for us here at Racebot TV. First, to Anvern Designs, the official graphics partners here at Racebot TV, with ATVO and Actioneer, the official graphics engine that you find here. Our live timing and scoring is brought to you by Nick Disson, with animations and overlays brought to you by Simon Grossman, as well as the camera packs brought to you by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22. Make sure that you check them out. In terms of what's happening tomorrow, well, there's Monday Night Skippies. You can join Rachel and the gang for that one, but it has been a fantastic week of sim racing overall, topped off with the 2K World Cup, as it always seems to do. Gindy got the strategy on point. It wasn't what was wanted for Lebert. Koba still gains in his championship, but my goodness me, are we in for a showdown when we go to the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle and we go onto the streets, we go on for the fighting, we go on to see just how difficult it can be. They may have over 2,500 iRating, but even the best can truly falter around Belle Isle. I've been Jake Sperry, that's been Hugo Louise behind the cameras, and we shall talk to you all very, very soon.